The Bulls are flying high, and it's a brand new episode of Gimme the Hot Sauce, episode 58, featuring another special guest. Last week, we had the great Joakim Noah on. This week, we have the co-star of Pardon the Interruption, Chicago's very own Michael Wilbon is going to join us coming up in our next segment, so keep it right here. We want to send special shout out to our guy Stacey King, who's just back from New York. He's been battling a sinus infection, but he is here, made the drive to the Sriracha studios, the Hustle and Flow studios. He's playing hurt, but he's here for you, America.
Hey, America, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm under the weather. I've been sick for about 3 days. You can listen to the voice. I sound a little raspy. The golden pipes are a little rusty.
Yeah.
But I'm here, though. I'm here. I don't miss days at work.
Well, the hot sauce will clear the sinuses. We got that going.
You know what? I've been wanting to use my hot sauce for this specific reason there, Timothy. Thank you for reminding me.
Sure, we'll get some set up for you.
Yeah, we're glad to have Timmy Whispers back. He was doing some high leverage business deals in Chicago last week. Did you any news for us on that front?
I crushed it. Crushed them like the insects they are.
And a special thanks to Rich White, who's in to help us out today, running the audio board for us. Where did Pavel go? Back to Russia for a couple of days?
Yeah, I think he had like some discos he had to get back to in Russia.
He got called back.
Actually,
he must return.
I heard from the office it was Interpol, but let's not go there.
He may not come back.
Well, I'll tell you what, the trip to New York, you know, the old saying, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. I guess the Bulls are in pretty good shape, Stacey, beating the Knicks and the Nets. And the Nets victory was especially impressive because you lost Kobe White and Javonte Green. They're both in the health and safety protocols. And then Alex Caruso goes out with an aggravated his hamstring strain. They're playing shorthanded, and they came from behind, and they beat Kevin Durant and company.
Well, right now we're having a little technical difficulties there, Mark. As you
you're frozen. Yeah.
I'm not on the screen. I don't know why. I think I don't know if there's the squirrels on the treadmill are not working. Are they on strike?
That's a better still than you usually get.
Oh, okay. See that guy? Okay, so I'm jumping back on now. America.
Whispers always with the zingers.
Yeah, Whispers. That guy. Oh my God. That guy.
Oh, we can hear your voice.
Can you hear me though?
While we get.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you just fine.
Hold on now. Hold on, America. They need to see me. I want America to see me. Okay. You know, because I was voted 10 most sexiest men in Chicago. So I want them to see me. There's a lot of haters in this room. A lot of haters in this room. I'm on my back.
You're back.
Okay,
You're
there.
back.
I'm back. You know what? Huge wins for the Bulls, Mark. Going in, this is our second win against Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Our second win against the Knicks. Really should be 3-0 against the Knicks, but we'll take 2 of 3. We don't go back there until March sometime to play the Knicks for the 4th game. I don't know when we go back to Brooklyn, but I was very impressed with this team. You know, they had some guys missing. You know, we were missing Javonte Green in the Brooklyn game. Some guys stepped up. You know, Derrick Jones Jr. came in and played well. Io is continuing to play well. Mm-hmm. Just really, I mean, he is locked in that rotation. Even when Kobe White comes back, I know Kobe was eating some of his minutes, and they were trying to get Kobe, you know, acclimated back out there. But that kid deserves to be on the floor. And to me, you know, because he's a two-way player, you know, he's an adequate defender. He gets after people. He's tough and he can score. And his 3-point shooting has really come along. So he's really fought his way into the rotation. If you remember, in preseason, he wasn't getting a lot of playing time, except in those garbage minutes. And you know, this is a second-round, you know, pick who really is a first-round talent. And people are going to look back on this just like Jokic. You know, Jokic was a second-rounder. And you're going to look back on this in a few years and realize that a lot of teams made a huge mistake on that kid, you know, and he's going to make a lot of money. And it's probably going to be one of the cornerstones for the Bulls, you know, in the next 10 years. So it's great to see him play well. And then DeMar and Zach continue. I mean, they honestly got to be considered MVP candidates. You know, I know, I know. You know, they're going to take away from each other, but you know, arguably they've got to be in discussion. Because I've always said this about Zach. You know, last year Zach, you know, people said, well, you know, he can't be an MVP because they didn't win. Well, yeah, you're right. Okay, but now what are you saying? They're winning, and he's a big reason why they're winning. And DeMar's a big reason why the Bulls are winning. And they're both putting up, you know, crazy numbers, especially in the fourth quarter. They are killers in the fourth quarter. And they both have to be in the discussion of MVP. If you had an MVP early discussion, they definitely have to be in it because I don't see anyone really playing as good as those two guys are right now.
Yeah, and Alex Caruso in that Knicks game made so many big plays. He caught the alley-oop with the big throwdown. He had the little behind-the-back drop feed to Vucevic for the jam. And then, unfortunately, he aggravated his hamstring and then only played a quarter against the Nets. But, we've talked about Caruso before on the show, but it's worth bringing up again, the intangibles that he brings to this team. He's not starting, but the minutes that he plays are so valuable. I mean, he really, in a lot of ways, is the heart and soul of this team. He's
like a Swiss Army knife. I mean, he does so many different things that help you win. He's a coach's dream because, it's not that he's out there scoring 25 points a game. He's not going to do that for you. What he's going to do for you is he's going to get the assist. He's going to give you second chance opportunities rebounding from the point guard position. He's going to be a lockdown defender. He's going to get steals. He's leading the league in steals, coming off the bench. The guy is him and Zoe are shut down guards. I mean, they literally shut down the opposing, you could put them on anyone in the starting lineup other than a center. You could put those guys on anyone and they will shut those guys down. I mean, the job that, they did, on Quickly and Derrick Rose and then, what Zoe did to James Harden. I mean, I've never seen James Harden shoot like that. Now, granted, James Harden, for some reason, doesn't have the lift that he once had. For whatever reason, he doesn't. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know what the situation. I saw him up close for the first time last night, and I walked away going, "Wow, there's something not right about him." I don't know if he's hurt and he's playing hurt, but he has no lift on his shot. He missed at least 10 shots around the rim that you knew James Harden never missed before. Like he would even dunk those balls. For whatever reason. He wasn't making those shots, but give a lot of credit to Zoe defensively. I thought last night's game, Zoe really expended so much energy trying to stop James Harden that it kind of took away from his offense a little bit. But he hit that huge three at the end of the game that sealed it for the Bulls. And that's what you want to see, guys stepping up. In big moments like that and not afraid to pull the trigger. Even though he hadn't shot the ball particularly well on this New York trip, he wasn't afraid. He pulled the trigger, bang, bang, bang. Bulls win the game.
So, Whispers, when you see Caruso play, was that the kind of player you were back in your rec center days?
Christ.
When you were playing with Stacey in those summer leagues?
Oh, no. Here we go. We already got the
It was more like Caruso's dad.
Wow.
So were you a grit and hustle guy, or were you a guy that's just stood waiting for the ball to shoot it?
I did everything.
You did everything.
That was the key to us winning many of those leagues.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's how it worked back then.
Listen, America.
Stacey would say, "Hey, slash," I'd do that. He said, "Cover this guy," I'd do that. Go to the corner, drop a three, I'd do that. Didn't matter what it was.
Listen, America. It didn't go like that.
No,
America.
not exactly.
It didn't go like that, man. No, Tim.
There was the time though that Stacey said at the end of a game we're blowing out somebody.
Yeah.
There's the championship game. I'm running down the court, nobody behind me. He says, "Get up to dunk it." And I decided it's a good time to throw down a windmill.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I slammed it right on the front of the rim, wiped out underneath the basket. The ball bounced back to half court. So it didn't turn out too pretty.
No, it wasn't.
I gave it
too
a shot.
It was an effort, though. It was an effort.
Yeah.
No, seriously, though, Whispers was one of those guys, Mark, that like he was athletic. He was a slasher. Like he could get by everybody, and he wasn't left-handed, but he could go left. And it kind of threw everybody off, and he would go by people. 3-point shooting was terrible.
Here comes the
What are you
scouting
talking
report.
about?
Oh, that's the thing. 3-point
What in
shooting.
the world are you
Listen,
talking-
3-point shooting was
No.
terrible. He might be
No.
a career 15% 3-point shooter. Career.
Oh my God.
Okay, here.
talking
Let me
about
tell you how
up my
important
knee?
he is. Let me tell you how important he is to now. It's the place is called Forest Grove. Okay,
Yeah.
but now it's called Midtown. Okay, there's only a few T-shirts hung up in the rafters. Okay, there's mine. There's Freddie Cruz. I would probably say Jeff Sanders is up there. Dickie Simpkins is up there in there.
Clyde the Glide
is up there. And so Tim's candidacy came to vote. And the board said no.
Oh,
They said no. They vetoed it.
They said yes.
They vetoed it. So Tim put his own T-shirt up there.
Yeah.
He had his own T-shirt. It was the Tim Kelly T-shirt he put up there. But that did not get voted on by the board. It was denied, and he fought it. And,
I just had roof access.
there's like a stick with spider webs hanging off.
yeah.
Or something?
It was just sad, and I know he was upset about it because I voted for him.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. No, I didn't vote for him. I vetoed it. I
30
vetoed
years
it.
of
30
abuse.
years of abuse,
31 now.
America.
31. I'm sorry.
But America, this guy,
next
honestly, this guy is like my best friend. I give him crap all the time.
Yeah.
And this is my right hand guy, man. I trust this man with my life.
How about that?
And he just said I wasn't left-handed.
He was trying to say $1 million move, 10-cent shot, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, $1 million move, 10-cent shot. That happened last night.
Yeah.
Somebody had $1 million move, 10-cent shot. I think it was Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown had like 12 rebounds in 10 minutes last night. He was killing us on the boards. But back to the game. I mean, honestly, the Bulls now are no longer surprised.
No.
Stephen A. Smith jumping on the bandwagon now. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. And you know what? This team, as long as they continue to play the way they're playing, I still think, honestly, because just on the outside looking in, if they were to stay pat with no changes, no roster moves, how far do I think they actually could go? And it all depends on matchups. If they get a matchup where teams want to go small, they're going to beat those teams. Because every team they played this year that's tried to go small with them, the Bulls have beat them. It's when you look at the times they don't have the success, is when they're playing two dominant inside players, 4 and 5 position players. Indiana comes to mind.
Philadelphia.
Those two teams are problems. But anybody else in the Eastern Conference, and what did I say at the beginning when Nick Friedel was talking about Atlanta and the Knicks? What did I say? I said, I'm not buying any of that. I'm not buying no stock, because I said they're going to be back at the end of where they were to begin with. And lo and behold, I think they're 9th and 10th or 10th and 11th in the Eastern Conference right now. I was not sold on Atlanta. Atlanta has a lot of talent, and I thought Atlanta peaked last year. I thought because of a new coach, new system, guys bought into it. Nate McMillan's a good coach, good defensive coach, but he's on that same lines of Scott Skiles and Tom Thibodeau. Is that they wear on guys, and that's a young team, and the way the demands that he puts on players to defend, and to play hard every night. Young players don't really want in this league. Don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? They want to play at their own pace when they want to play. And I thought that would be a problem with this young Atlanta Hawks team. And if you look at them now, they're good at home, but they can't win on the road, which is crazy. Like, how can you be so good at home and then terrible on the road? But right now, I think both those teams are down like 9 and 10 in the Eastern Conference standings. And here you see Washington up there now. Cleveland is playing well. Darius Garland is playing unbelievable at the point guard position. The Bulls will see them on Wednesday night, and that's going to be a tough game. And
what kind of road trip is that? You go to Cleveland on Wednesday, and you got to wait till Saturday to play in Miami. I mean, you've been spending a lot of time on the road the first couple of months of the season.
Listen, Mark, it could be worse. Okay, I mean, we're going to Cleveland. And then we got 3
You like going to Cleveland?
No.
You know anybody likes going to Cleveland?
Do you know anybody wants to vacation in Cleveland? But the good thing about it is we'll be in Miami like 4 days.
That ain't so bad.
That's not so bad. But, the travel schedule this year has been really brutal for the Bulls. You went out west, you played 10 games, you were gone for 10 days, you had 5 games in 10 days. Then you come back home for a day, then you play 2 games at home, back-to-back scenario. Then you get back on the road and you go another 4 days. Then you come back home, you have 1 game, and you're back on the road. We go back east for 4 games.
Houston, Orlando. Yeah,
it's brutal, and the crazy thing about this is there should really be no back-to-back games in the NBA right now with COVID going on.
Yeah.
There should be no back-to-backs. There should be, because there's no rush in the schedule. I still believe they should have 72 games. I believe that there should be spaced out in games where teams are not, having to play 3 games in 5 days because of the fact we're still in COVID, and you're the compromising of people's immune system because they're constantly traveling and moving around all the time. And now we're back into arenas with, 20,000 people. I just think that the league, dropped the ball on that a little bit. They should have spaced games out more where you're not having these crazy schedules and flying all over the place. Like I wish they went back to what they did last year, where if a team is playing, LA playing both LA teams, you're there for 5 days.
Right.
If you're playing, you're playing in Miami, you're with Orlando and Miami, you're staying there for 4 or 5 days. Same thing with New York and Brooklyn. There's certain areas that you can do that in, cut travel down, cut the movement down. And I just think they kind of dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, you look around the league right now, and it's getting kind of frightening how many players are going into the health and safety protocols. I mean, you look at what happened with the Bulls. Kobe White was the first one that had to go into the protocols, and then Javonte Green the other day he's out as well. And then the Bulls played the Charlotte Hornets on Monday, and now they got 4 guys, including 3 starters. LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Mason Plumlee, and one of their reserve players are all in the protocols. I mean, this is decimating.
Well, and you remember, I mean, we had Vooch there. We had Vooch in the protocol. So we've had 3 players.
But LeBron found a workaround.
Yeah, LeBron. All of a sudden, he took.
Yeah, I took 8 tests.
I took 8 tests and all came back false positive.
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna be right out there playing. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I need to see those tests.
I know.
I need to see those tests. I need to see that they actually tested you and you're actually able to go out there and play, because that's what I would say. Because why is he the only one that had a negative, positive?
Yeah, that was kind of
that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so, but at the end of the day, I said this. I said I just felt like, they should have spaced out the season, because last year the problem was they played 72 games and then you had the Olympics. And that was the big thing. Like, we can't run into the Olympics in the summer, yada, yada, yada. But that's not the issue now. Plus, you didn't start in December. See, last year you started in December.
Right.
So you had 72 games to play. You started on time this year. You could have spaced out games this year all the way until whenever you needed to. Just to make sure that players our health is safe, because I mean now you're also factoring in, you're letting 20,000 people in now. How many of those arenas are doing the health protocol? How many of those people are doing it? And nowadays, shoot, you can walk in with a fake card. I mean, Antonio Brown showed you that.
I didn't see any masks at Madison Square Garden in the crowd.
Didn't see any either.
Yeah.
Didn't see any either.
No, at the United Center, you have to wear your mask as a fan, right?
Yeah, but I most of the places I've been, I haven't seen people wearing masks.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we were in Brooklyn last night, and I was like, okay, is anybody wearing masks? Are
you concerned we might get to the point where we're going to be having games postponed again?
Listen, it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
It's all based on how many guys miss on a team. If you're Charlotte misses 4 guys, and then you got to factor in too, Mark, those 4 guys are around 8 or 9 other guys. Yeah. So just because they don't test positive right then and there doesn't mean in 48 hours, that they're not going to test positive.
That's why you worry about the Bulls, because they got 2 guys, White and Green, who've been around the whole team.
Yes.
And who's to say who else isn't going to test positive?
So, but the Bulls, I will give the Bulls credit. The Bulls test almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So they're constantly doing the rapid test daily to make sure and staying, on top of it. We're allowed to go in there. The media is allowed to go in there. People who are in tier 1, which is the people who are on the plane. We can go in and get tested every day, which, why wouldn't you if you got an opportunity to do that? And then you're on a plane where 2 or 3 players, got COVID. And we're not, we pretty much stay away from the players, like on the plane. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not directly in contact. They sit on the front of the plane. The people who are in direct contact would be coaches. Those are the guys that are actually on, with the players. But we definitely try to stay away. We're in the back of the plane, and we've been very fortunate. I've been, before this year, year and a half, I've been, dodging it, been lucky, but all of our chances go up now that we're back on the plane and we're back to traveling, because then you got the stewardesses that are running the plane, the pilots. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different variables that can make this, a very difficult time for you. So I worry about it. We wear masks on the plane and stuff like that, but I worry about it. The bus drivers that we get on the buses. I mean, there's so many different things that you have to worry about, so, yeah.
The other factor early in the year has been injuries. This past week, 2 big-name players had to have back surgery, which could keep them out for the entire season. Michael Porter Jr. had his 3rd back operation, and that's really scary stuff. That's the reason why he fell to 14 in the draft. And Denver just made this long-term 5-year max commitment. He's, we don't know if he's going to play again. And then Milwaukee, hoping to defend their championship, their big man, Brook Lopez, had back surgery. So, that's anytime you talk about the back for a professional athlete, especially a guy that's almost 7 feet tall, that's got to be scary. And I know you were really high on the Nuggets, and this is really going to crush their chances.
That's a huge blow, because you just gave Michael Porter that big contract. Yeah. That was a big concern when they drafted him. Like you said, Mark, that's the reason why he slipped all the way down there. But at the same time, everybody cleared him. They said, hey, his back's not going to be an issue, da-da-da. And, we don't know why his back's hurt. Maybe he took a shot, maybe he fell. We don't know. But at the same time, it's a little alarming that, he's going to have back surgery. The kid's only like 21, 22 years old. You got to be worried about how this long-term is going to affect his career. I know Denver is probably worried about that, but, you got $190 million or whatever it was. He got a max contract. Mm-hmm. His play deserved it. He's an exciting young player, man. Highly skilled, can shoot the basketball. When healthy is a very good piece for them. But now, Jokic has to do so much more now. Jokic, I ain't gonna lie though, Jokic's a bad dude. Yeah, Jokic's a bad dude.
Hey, he brought his brothers with him to Miami for that rematch.
Yeah.
That was funny, wasn't it?
They sure did. The brothers were there.
Nobody's going to mess with
They were
with
at the
guy.
club. They were at the club.
Yeah.
And they showed up at the club just in case. In case. It was, I don't know if it was Jokic's birthday or whatever, but they were celebrating something, but the brothers were there. And they had their fighting gear on just in case. And then Joakim was there. Joakim was at that party, and he got a chance to hang out with Jokic, and he was telling a story about that and the respect that he has for Jokic and vice versa. But yeah, they went to Miami. They were not gonna leave their brother out there by themselves. And trust me, the other people from Miami did not show up.
Yeah, they didn't want any part of that.
They didn't want no part of that.
No, they wanted that smoke.
We're done. It's over. It was a misunderstanding. Let's let it go.
So the Nuggets will come in here. No Michael Porter Jr. Jamal Murray still out after the knee injury that he suffered in last year's playoffs. They've got 2 or 3 guys in the health and safety protocols. Austin Rivers, a couple other guys. P.J. Dozier, who played with the Windy City Bulls a couple of years ago, had a serious knee injury. He's out. Man, they're coming limping in here Monday night. This is a game the Bulls need to take advantage of.
They're still dangerous.
Yeah, anytime Jokic plays.
Yeah, they just came in off their little East Coast trip. They're kind of finishing it up now, I think, with us. And they've won a majority of their games out here. So Jokic they just beat the Knicks yesterday. They played the Knicks at 1 o'clock yesterday. Yeah. And at one point they had Knicks down 30 points. Jokic was just killing them. They had no answer for Jokic. So he'll be playing tomorrow, and we'll have Vooch. We didn't have Vooch the last time we played up in Denver, and that was our first win in like 17 years or whatever. They're gonna be coming back. They want that win back. They want to come in here and win, and Jokic is going to play. And, we're going to have our hands full with them because they're such a good passing team. Will Barton is underrated.
He's a good player.
He's a very good player. They've got some really good pieces there. Are they still a championship team? They would if Porter Jr. was healthy, and then depending on how Jamal Murray comes back from. I still think, in my opinion, if they can get those guys back, they're the team to beat.
Aaron Gordon's played well for them.
Aaron Gordon had a big game against us. That was the one game. This is one of these teams that I'm talking about. When you have 2 inside players that can coexist with one another, one up top, one play the high post, one play the low post, which Jokic and Aaron Gordon can do. That's going to be a problem for the Bulls because these 2 guys can score from the block. They can score from 3 points. So it's gonna be a tough matchup. But if the Bulls come in and take care of the basketball, eliminate bad quarters where they go 5-6 minutes without scoring the ball. If they can maintain a pace, they'll win the game.
And then Wednesday, as you mentioned, they go to Cleveland. Our old buddy Lauri Markkanen playing for them. He's kind of putting up similar numbers to what he did in Chicago. He's had some big games. He has some other games where not as much. And I think right now he's probably trying to find a consistent role because Evan Mobley is a guy being talked about as Rookie of the Year. You mentioned Darius Garland, who's having a fantastic season. Ricky Rubio, the veteran's been strong. And the other guard is out.
Colin Sexton.
Yeah, he had surgery on his meniscus, and I believe
he's you got to remember, you also got to remember is Jared Allen is playing well.
Yes, very well.
Jared Allen was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week or the month last week. So he's playing well. And so, Lowry, because last time we played them, Lowry was in the starting lineup. I don't know where he'll be.
That was in the preseason, right?
Yeah, I don't know where he'll be, this time. Is he coming off the bench? Is he playing the 3 position? I don't know. But it's tough because I would have loved to see Lowry play on this team, play with these guys. And it's sad that, guys don't want to be on winning teams and be a part of something, winning wise, because that's what it's about in this league. These guys right now, they want to chase the money. They want to chase the money and the fame. And it's not about winning with some of these guys, but then when they get older, they're all jumping on board trying to get on teams. Like Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap should have came to Chicago. Paul Millsap would be our starting power forward right now, playing 35, 40 minutes a night, and he could help us.
Yeah.
I mean, last night he in the game he had a stretch where he was the best player on the floor. Like he was posting up, scoring, shooting threes. I mean, he looked like the Paul Millsap that played in Utah. And. It would have been nice to have him, and all these guys now look at the Chicago Bulls who had a chance to come here is all now like, oh man, I made a mistake,
missed a chance.
Because you're on Brooklyn team playing 15 minutes a night, and then you see this team here, and we're playing a 6'3", 2 guard at the power forward position, which you look at that and say, well, I would probably have started here. Yeah.
Last thing before we get ready to bring Michael Wilbon in, Phoenix had won 18 games in a row. That streak was snapped when they lost in Phoenix, but it was a back-to-back. They had played the night before, and Devin Booker was out. So who knows how long that streak would have gone if they'd have been 100%.
Phoenix is the real deal.
Yeah.
And Golden State is the real deal. Those two teams right now are clearly the two best teams in the Western Conference. I think a lot of people think LeBron and the Lakers are going to be able to turn it on and turn it off. LeBron and the Lakers are who we thought they are. Okay? Number one, they're not a good defensive team. They haven't been a good defensive team all season long, and that's not something you say we're going to turn it on in the playoffs and be a great
defense. They missed the kid with the headband. Caruso.
Yeah, Caruso.
Big time.
Yeah, I mean, they missed a lot of people. That KCP was a good defending player for him, but another man's trash, another man's diamond. We take KC from them, we take Lonzo. Lonzo was there as well.
Yep.
So we'll take those guys, but the two, Golden State and Phoenix, are clearly the two best teams in the Western Conference. The way they move the basketball, the way they play unselfish, they got guards that can shoot threes. They got guys who slash to the basket. Phoenix, I give Phoenix kind of an edge against Golden State because of, Ayton. I think Ayton is underrated. I think, when he decides that he wants to be big, then there's nothing you can do to stop him because he's athletic. He's a freak. He can run like a guard. He can post up and score. He can shoot, 15, 18-foot jump shots. And he's starting to realize, because I think they didn't sign him. And I think
they didn't give him the max.
So now he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. And, same thing when we talk about Miles Bridges. You had, the Hornets had a chance to lock him in, and you didn't do it. You gave him a low ball offer, and now he's played like an all-star, and you're going to probably either going to have to pay him, double what you were going to have to pay him.
Be like Jimmy Butler.
Exactly. They bet on themselves. Yeah. Ayton bet on himself. Yeah. And depending on how well Phoenix does, I went to the finals last year. I mean, you don't find Ayton's walking around. You don't find that kind of guy that can play in this era, that can run up and down the floor, switch and defend guards. So when you get a guy like that, a big guy 7 feet that can do those things, man, that's a luxury.
Well, coming up later in the month, a lot of home games for the Bulls. One guy we know who will be in the stands is our good buddy Jeff Vukovic. When it comes time for your auto, home, and business insurance needs, make sure you contact the king of insurance, nationwide agent Jeff Vukovic at jeffvuk.com. That is jeffvuk.com. He's been a loyal friend and sponsor of the show, and I know Stacey's got a little bit of a sinus problem, but he said he's going to make sure he gets the jingle out there for all the folks out there.
Nationwide is on your side.
Wow, the Golden Pipes sounding good.
Yes. All right.
I think it might be that medicine that Tim brought you.
I don't know. This little apple cider.
Yeah, sometimes that's the best therapy.
Yeah, little alcohol, America. I don't suggest if we have children listening, I don't suggest you get some grape juice.
That's right. So remember, as you get ready to make your plans for all your insurance needs for 2022, contact the king of insurance, nationwide agent Jeff Vukovic.
Best in the business.
Yes, no question about it. And the other guy who's the best in the business is Chicago's very own Michael Wilbon. He suffers along with all you fans when the Bears are having bad games, when the Cubs are struggling, and he's really enjoying the Bulls' renaissance. So coming up next on Gimme the Hot Sauce, Michael Wilbon of PTI joins the show. Keep it right here for a whole lot more coming up.
If you like hot sauce and barbecue sauce, then you're listening to the right show. Gimme the Hot Sauce has the best small batch organic sauces to spice up your kitchen. Chicago-style red sauce with a garlic twist. Our St. Pat's Verde green sauce with extra avocado and cilantro. And our King's Q, a bold, spicy, and sweet sauce just like me. Use code HOTSAUCE21 to get 21% off your first order. That's HOTSAUCE21 for 21% off. Order today for the holidays. And if you're a true Bulls fan, you know we are flowing with the hot sauce.
And remember.
And she'll like it too. Oh, shout out to my boy Frank Thomas in that new Jennings commercial.
Nobody does a read like our own Stacey King.
Oh.
And if you're trying to get that special gift for the holidays, you want to make sure you get your order in early so the packaging will arrive.
Yes.
You're going to love all three versions of the hot sauce. And we want to bring in a very hot guest, Michael Wilbon, the co-star of Pardon the Interruption with Tony Kornheiser, Chicago's very own. Michael, I know you've probably been approached to do a lot of commercials over the last 20 years or so. What did you think of Stacey doing his hot sauce read? He's got his own brand of hot sauce, Michael.
I love it. He's taking me back to my days. I'm sitting right now in my house in suburban Washington, D.C. When he starts, Stacey, when he does that read, that commercial, I start thinking about Lims and Leon's on the south side of Chicago. Don't think mouth watering and stuff about things I shouldn't eat. So Stacey, stop it. Cut it out.
You know what? You're a friend of the program, Mike, and we're sending you 3 bottles of hot sauce when this is over.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, all guests appearing on Give Me the Hot Sauce. We'll get the gift package.
We take care of our guests, okay?
Oh, sure.
Hey, Michael, obviously people who've followed your career know that you're from Chicago and you are so passionate about Chicago's teams. I'm curious, what was the team that you fell in love with first? If you're watching on YouTube, you see he's got his Walter Payton jersey on. What was your first love for Chicago sports?
Damn, that's a good question. At the same time, you get to a certain age and you start following wherever you follow. So I remember, this is going to make me sound like older than dirt. I remember when the Bears won their championship in 1963, which was not a Super Bowl. It was simply the NFL championship. I was 4. Late December, I was 5. But the Cubs and White Sox were the same time, and it was really both. My father, I grew up in a household with a White Sox fan. My dad rolls over in his grave every time I cheer for the Cubs, I'm sure. But that's the household I grew up in. And so it was Cubs. It was Minnie Minoso. It was White Sox first, narrowly before the Cubs, maybe a year. And it was both of them. And then a year later was the Bulls' first year. So I added that. I was 7 when the Bulls were founded. So it was all that 5, 6, 7 year, that time in your life where you're just sort of coming into it if you're a sports fan. Blackhawks were right then too, with Bobby Hull and Dennis Hull and, a team that had recently won the Stanley Cup. So it was kind of all 4 of them when I was little, as early as I have any consciousness of sports.
Yeah.
And I don't know that one was any, the Bulls had to be last simply because they didn't exist.
Right.
They didn't exist until 66, 67. But the others were right around the same time.
Hey, Minnie Minoso got in the Hall of Fame today, but Dick Allen fell 1 vote short, which is an injustice.
Yeah, I wore 15 and I wore 10 or 15 every year in Little League for Ron Santo or Dick Allen.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, I didn't know that Dick Allen fell 1 short.
Yeah.
I did know Minnie Minoso got in. And, Minnie Minoso and Louis Aparicio were probably the first, and Ernie Banks were the first professional athletes. And I guess Sayers and Butkus. That group of guys were the first professional athletes I was aware of. And in my house, my father was Minnie Minoso.
Wow. So everyone knows you're a big time Chicago sports fan. So, I know you watched the game today because you got the Sweetness jersey on today. What is your feelings about the Bears? You've been very outspoken, about, the direction of the team. You saw them today. They kind of lull you a little bit. They make you thinking they're turning the corner and then they go back to being the same. You know what I'm saying? So how do you feel about that? And do you feel there's a coaching change coming at the end of this season?
Well, there better be one coming because they're going to lose the momentum of their greatest asset, Justin Fields. Unlike basketball, where talent is going to rise to the top most of the time. And I'm not about to say talent, coaching doesn't matter. If people think Tim Duncan would have been the same on 25 other franchises that he was, playing for Popovich and practicing every day with David Robinson and Avery Johnson, all those guys, they're crazy, okay? And that's what the Bears are losing with Justin Fields. And look, Matt Nagy is a bright man, and he's a very good football coach because he wouldn't have risen to this level. There are a lot of very good football coaches, as you guys, Stacey, you know this for basketball too. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are very good coaches in the assistant role, and they can't move that one seat over. And Matt Nagy clearly earned this opportunity because he's a damn good football coach, but he ain't a damn good head football coach. He's just not. Yeah. And they know that. The players, nobody knows things in the locker room. You can still respect that person. You can still like that person, the effort, the organization, things behind the scene. But Justin Fields is not going to become a great player if he's not coached better. That's just the way it is in sports. And they have to have a change. Not need to, they have to have a change. And they'll have one. I don't know how high the change will go. I don't know what they're planning to do with general manager. They have to have a change of coaching. And so no late burst is going – like if they had won today, and they weren't going to do that anyway, but they won particularly the week before Baltimore. I was at that game. And if they were 5-6 right now instead of – are they 4-7 right now instead of 4-7?
4-8.
4-8. That's right, because they dropped again. They're not a playoff team, and they need to get off that farce. They're not that. And so they have to change it, and they got to change it. I understand there's a certain thing I appreciate about the Hallis family, having grown up in Chicago and a fan of this organization. I know what this GSH means. It's George Hallis. They're not going to fire a coach during the season. I've been telling friends of mine, Chicagoans, relatives, they got to fire Nick. I said, that's not what they do. They're not going to do that. They're a family-owned organization and have been for 100 years. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers would not do that. The Rooney family would not do that. And I appreciate that. While I want a coaching change, I appreciate that. McCaskey, Hallis family. So they'll change. They have to change. They have to get started quickly because you don't want to spend 3 or 4 years trying to get Justin Fields moving in the direction he should be moving. It wasn't a wasted year, but it wasn't a year where everything was applied as it should be. It just wasn't.
Do you think that they wasted his talent and didn't have a system in place for him? Because it seemed to me like he's a guy that needs to be in a system kind of like, you see Lamar Jackson with the ability to pass, and the ability to run if necessary. Lamar Jackson runs part of their offense and running 25 times a game, which I still believe, it's just a matter of time before, you take the wrong hit and he's out for a while. And I'd be really nervous if I was a coach. But it's worked for Baltimore. I don't see that happening for Justin Fields, but putting him in a position where he can succeed, because I thought they ran more of a Andy Dalton type of passing,
exactly
and it was terrible. Like your offensive line sucked, and the kid was running for his life the whole time. So why have him in the pocket trying to make plays when, as soon as the ball's hiked, there's there's 8 people on him.
Well, the irony is they ought to have something a little bit more like Patrick Mahomes runs for Andy Reid, where the pocket moves.
Yes.
You got to move a pocket where the offensive line is not adequate. And I was able to, I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. He knows I'm going to say it. I watched the game 2 weeks ago sitting and standing with Richard Dent. I'm standing with a Hall of Famer. I'm standing with a guy who's got a yellow jacket, all right?
Yep.
And so, I felt certain things, Stacey, but they were reinforced with, I'm watching with Richard Dent, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And Richard was talking about some of these same concepts as a guy who played on that field for whatever it was, 13, 14 years. And he was talking about the pocket moving. He was talking about what has to happen when your offensive line is not stocked with great players. And I was nodding like, thank God, I'm getting confirmation of this from one of the all-time greats who also has an agenda for the Bears to be great, for Fields to be great in Richard Dent. So, yes, all those things are true. They need a better system. This system is what they're doing is not known. What is it known for? What is it doing? What does it hang its hat on? They got 2 great running backs that he doesn't know how to use. Terrific running backs.
Yeah.
So with Justin Fields being that athletic too, combine his passing talents, like today on the game, I'm not sure if that was State doing the color. I think it was. But he was talking about, okay, you've run the ball now, but you're down 2 scores. You should be able to run more play action, run more screens, move the pocket more. And here again, is a guy who won a Super Bowl, Mark Schlereth, with the Washington football team now. And so to hear these guys say it, Stacey, we're not wrong. Not only are we not wrong, I don't know if it's stubbornness. I don't believe it's an inability or not knowing. Because Matt Nagy couldn't have been named the head coach and had done as well as he did in Kansas City for a Hall of Fame coach and Andy Reid if he didn't know these things. So I don't know what it is. I'm tired of guessing what it is. I'm tired of arguing for whatever it is. I don't want to hear any of that garbage. Put this kid in a system that is going to bring out the best of him and allow him to show what it is he can do. I just want it done. And whoever can prove to Bears management, upper management, when they hire this next coach, that's the guy they need to hire.
Michael, I know you make weekly appearances here in Chicago on the Waddle and Sylvie show, and Mark Silverman, one of the co-hosts with the great Tommy Waddle, has been campaigning like crazy that says that the organization has to change from the very top. I mean, he's not suggesting that Virginia has to leave, but he thinks that Ted Phillips should go, that Ryan Pace should go. Is that a systemic issue that needs to be addressed at the very highest levels before this finally gets straightened out? Because you can't keep changing coaches every 3 years and hoping miraculously you're going to hit on one.
Well, what he is suggesting, and I was just with him Wednesday in the studio, is that you don't know whether you trust those guys to make the right hire.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, are they going to what makes me think they're going to make the right hire? And that's a legitimate point of view. Having said that, I don't think that's what George McCaskey's going to do. I don't see that.
Yeah.
In which case, the one thing about the GM, Ryan Pace, is that he has made some really good picks. Some really good picks. I mean, that's a selection. It's not just picks. You got. Let me tell you something. If you had an offensive line and a scheme, don't tell me that Mooney and Allen Robinson. I'm not the biggest Cole Kmet fan in the world, but they got tight end. They have tight ends who can play. He's made some mistakes. I mean, taking the kid out of West Virginia with this whatever it was, a 7th pick in the draft 6 or 7 years ago, he barely took snaps in a Bear uniform.
Or White.
Yeah.
White the receiver.
I mean, dreadful. But he's made some good picks. But he spent 6 years and didn't have an offensive line. Now the people that I've covered in my life, including coaches and personnel people, and I mean, I covered football as long as I've covered basketball. And when I talk to those people now, and it doesn't show up in reporting, because that's not what I do anymore, but I'm curious. What do the Bears have to do? And they all say to me, are you crazy? They don't have an offensive line. That's what they say. And so that's on the GM. That's on page 2. Yeah. I mean, Mooney, the selection of Mooney was great. The trading up to get Fields was great. But you have to start with offensive line. I'm sitting in a place where I covered 3 Super Bowl teams, Washington, then Redskins, with Joe Gibbs as the coach. He won with 3 different quarterbacks, 3 different primary running backs, a posse of different receivers. Why? Because he had the damn line. He had the offensive line. All right? Yeah. Every year. Those guys it was really a unit of about 6 guys. And they stayed together, Joe Jacoby and Russ Grimm, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Jeff Bostic and Jim Lachey, and these names don't mean anything to anybody. Joe Jansen, who's at Michigan, was on the last few of those. These people were great year after year after year after year, which meant George Stark, going back before that, Mark May, it meant they could play with all those different quarterbacks and receivers and running backs, and that didn't matter. The line play was the heart and soul of the Super Bowl team. 4 times, 3 times they won. So it doesn't seem Ryan Pace has any respect for that. And Joe Gibbs, by the way, not only in the Hall of Fame, but also maybe the best owner among race car drivers.
Right.
Yeah.
This guy just gets how to compete. He understands what it is that you need first to compete. And if Ryan Pace doesn't understand that about the offensive line, we're wasting our time.
Well, it's almost like, all these, like in the NBA, these analytics people that want to tell you that, how to do things. Well, this guy is great, because he shoots all these threes, but he's shooting 25%, and it's almost like everybody gets caught up in that because offensive linemen in the NFL are, at a premium. I mean, they get paid a lot of money, and you got to spend money to get those guys. And if you look at the Bears, Mike, all their skill position players are pretty good. Like their wide receivers are good. Their running back, you got a great young quarterback. So you got all the key pieces on offense in the specialty positions to be really, really explosive. But you got a shabby line. How about go out and spend some money on people? How about go out and get, a good left tackle, good right tackle, guard? How about doing that?
Well, Tommy Waddle has, speaking of Waddle, one day we sat out during a commercial break on their show, and he totaled up the amount of money spent on the offensive line. And yet they go out and spend $18 million or $15, whatever it was, on Glennon that year. Remember that?
Right. Oh, yes.
They thought he was going to start, and then he didn't start because they got, what's his name from North Carolina?
Trubisky.
And so they spent $18 million on a quarterback who didn't play, and like the whole offensive line made like 11. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was nuts. And so your point, the point you're making, I think is the most important point about the Bears. And my son who's 13, he is just, in love with sports now and in love with all of the, not the analytics necessarily, but the fantasy stuff. And then we got Mooney and we got Robinson. And I'm like, and the quarterback don't have no damn time to get the ball to one of them.
Exactly.
And you better start looking at, you better start looking at the offensive line, which is, of course, not glamorous to a 13-year-old. But that's Stacey. That's it. That's the deal. Like we could put a wrap right there, right? That's again. And I talk to people, a lot of them, just people around the league. Some of them, either worked for the Washington team at some point. And they know me from years gone by. They're like, dude, you covered a 4-time Super Bowl team and coach. What do you know the answer to be? You don't have to ask me. Some of these guys, offensive linemen who are my buddies. I ran into a guy from that team 2 weeks ago. And he said, dude, what's up with the Bears? How come they can't figure out what's up with your squad?
Yeah.
How come they can't figure out that if they had a line to go with all those great Stacey, these people that I often talk to, they don't say the Bears offensive skill players are pretty good. They think they're potentially great.
Yes.
That with a line, so I've been obsessed in the last month. I don't look at scouting reports. I don't do that anymore. But I went through and I started looking at all the college grade outs, the college grading on offensive linemen. And I'm like, okay, can this guy fall to us? Can this guy be a second-round pick? But you can get Joe Jacoby, who arguably should be in the Hall of Fame, played on those Redskins Super Bowl teams. He arguably should be in the Hall of Fame. He was a free agent. He was not drafted out of Louisville.
Wow.
So you don't have to get people with only first-round picks. Russ Grimm might have been a first-round pick. I don't know about the other guys. I don't think they were. Bostic was not a first-round pick. So there are guys who are going to fall to positions where the Bears are going to be sitting at 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th round. Now, does somebody have the talent here? Not the analytics.
Yes.
Offensive line play, there might be a little bit of analytics involved. There's scouting, old-fashioned scouting involved.
Yes.
If you're too lazy or arrogant or stupid to do it, you need to be replaced.
And I believe that's what it is. I believe that's what it is in the NFL for certain teams. I think the teams that are winning, I think they spend the money on scouting. I think they really focus in on the people doing it. I think the teams that are not winning, Mike, like the Bears, take that for granted. They read someone else's scouting report. They're like, oh, well, so-and-so said this guy is terrible.
Man, you're so right. We are in total agreement on that. Yeah, it starts there. I mean, in every sport, I mean, I was, in the last 10 years of my career and currently it's 80% basketball. The football stuff's just fun because I, again, apply it to the Bears. I'm so addicted to my hometown team. But like in basketball, man, it's like, talking to guys right now, as I'm such a fanatic and I've been talking to scouts I know, what do the Bears need, or former scouts, guys who was, sometimes retired now. What do we need? What do we got? What can put us over the top? What, the Bears, the Bulls appear to be so close now. What, and it's those guys who they're worth their weight in gold. They were when they were scouting for specific teams.
Yes.
I know one of the Suns scouts that I've known forever and ever and ever. And this guy, he's not even with the Suns anymore. Stacey, he travels the globe. right, is a guy that I know really well. He told me about 5 years ago. He said, look, man, I said, where you going? He said, I'm going to Eastern Europe. I'm like, why? He says, a kid I got to see. He's like 16 years old. And his name, I know how to spell his name. I'm not sure if it's pronounced Doncic or Doncic.
Yeah.
And he said, I've seen him twice. We think the people who are following him think he's going to be, potentially the best player in the NBA. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And these guys are getting on planes going to the furthest reaches of the globe, right?
Yes.
And they're getting paid because the guys employing them understand what they understand.
Yes.
That they can look at people and assess. And that's what, every sport, it's the lifeblood of every sport. Why do Houston Astros keep losing people and yet coming up with people to replace the people and get back to the World Series? Because their scouts are better than yours.
Exactly.
Why? So because you got to have, not only do you have to have them, you got to listen to them. And sometimes what I find out is scouts are really good. They're making these strong suggestions in the war room on draft day. They're going to their guys saying, we can sign this guy. We can get a second-round pick with this guy. Trust me, they don't listen. There's some great scouts out there who are not listened to by the front offices.
Yeah.
So, but any way you play it, you have to have great scouts. You take care of those guys, and you got to pay attention to them.
I always said this, Mike, like if I was an NBA general manager, if I was got hired to be a general manager, the first thing I would do was I would restructure my scouting department, and I would go to the Spurs. I would find out who their top scout is because they always seem to find talent. They always.
Come here, when my son is knocking on the door. Now you can see the great Stacey King.
Hey.
Thank you, Chicago.
Hey, what's going on there?
How are you?
How you doing? Yeah, hey, he's growing, man. Jeez.
He's getting up. He wants to hit the big burst to get to like 6'6" point guard. I'm like, I don't think you got the genetic quality. All right, I'll be up in a minute. Go ahead. We're doing Mr. King's podcast. All right.
Nice meeting you, Matt.
Be up in a minute.
Yeah, so it's like, when you look at if I was to be a scout, if I was to be a general manager, that's what I would do. I would go to the teams that consistently win. And I would go to San Antonio and I'd find out who their top scout is. And I say, what is it going to take for me to get you to come work in Chicago with me?
Yes, sir.
How much are the Spurs paying you? And what is it going to take to get you to come and run my scouting department? And that's what I would do. If I was a team that was losing and we wanted to turn it around through the draft and scouting, because I've been around this game a long time. And I've seen guys that actually, like for instance, when they send scouts over to the African, on borders and check out those guys. That most of the teams are not sending guys over there. They're just getting reports from someone else.
You're so right. I mean, I was in Europe at the Olympics, and I ran into a couple of guys that you and I know very well who were headed to Africa. And I said, so how many teams are sending somebody to scout now? They were like, our teams. It's like 3 dudes in the corner in London. Yeah. Now, that number's bigger, right? That number's now, instead of 5 or 6 teams, that number's probably, it may be 25.
Well, because of Dwayne Casey. Dwayne Casey, picking up all these kids from Africa and then bringing them to Toronto, and they turn out to be, Siakam. No one knew who Siakam was until. Nobody knew. And same thing with Giannis. No one knew Giannis, and these.
You were mentioning people I'm talking about because it's Toronto's guy.
Yes.
Right? So you just listen and you're like, damn, it's such a there's an advanced, proactive, aggressive approach, and then there's not. And I will tell you this, as much as maligned as he has been and sometimes was and deserved to be sometimes, one thing I loved about Jerry Krause was that Jerry got on a plane.
Yes.
Okay. So I know an advanced scouting team wouldn't pay for him to go. And so one year they were in position for him to draft whoever Jerry Krause was scouting. So if Jerry passed on a guy at a certain point, because Jerry had more than one international by the time we got to the 90s, that, of course. Like they weren't, this guy's team wasn't going to pay for him to do that, to travel the globe. So he was like, dude, I got to get lined up behind Jerry Krause. Because he knew Jerry Krause was putting the time in.
Yes, and I think we talk about this a lot with Jerry, is that he doesn't get the credit that he deserves of, not only, I mean, if his name was Jerry West, you'd be talking about one of the greatest GMs of all time. And because Michael's relationship with Jerry was very rough, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves because most people just take sides. If MJ says, I don't like the guy, everybody, I don't like him either, But Jerry was a great freaking GM. Mike, think about this. 2 different three-peat teams. The only constant was Michael and Scotty and Phil. That's it.
Yeah. That's right. And you know what? I mean, it was Jerry. Jerry was hard to like. But if you put that aside and just looked at me, Jerry was the one who knew he was going to trade or draft Scotty, right?
Yep.
Jerry was the one who knew he was. I remember when Jerry was, you see him at X number of games in college. That was covering college basketball more than. And you see Jerry, he'd be sitting or standing like in a spy position.
Yeah.
He's
hiding in the corner.
Oh, yeah. And he was in love with both Grants, Horace and Harvey.
Yeah.
And you knew going in, like sometimes who Jerry was favoring. And it's scouting. It's scouting. Jerry was less an executive than he was a scout who was moved into an executive role because obviously Jerry Reinsdorf knew him because he was scouting for him. This dude was so talented he could scout 2 professional sports. He did baseball.
Which is unheard of.
It's unheard of. And so going back to the Bears, and you know what, Stacey? This is what I like about this Bulls team. There was some old-fashioned scouting that went into this. I had more people tell me, and I'm sure you had more than me because you were at this every day. But I had guys who I respect and know and are very good at what they do in the NBA and the professional basketball world. They said to me, hey, man, Levine and DeRozan, this is not going to work.
Yep.
And I would say, why not? And he would say, look, we're not talking about the talent or the skill sets. We're talking about demeanor and personality and what it is they both do. And they're both tremendous players, but this marriage is not going to work. And so going into the season, man, I was a little down. I was like, I know these dudes, I'm talking about dudes who are running playoff teams, right? I mean, and almost everybody missed. People could have got DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, for cheap.
He was out there.
Yeah, he was out there.
Right? And even the Clippers and the Lakers didn't really know what they wanted to do with him because there's a lost art, not just of shooting from the mid-range, but appreciating the shooting from the mid-range.
Yes.
So I give Arturas and Mark everything. I give them huge credit for saying, hold up, here's what we see, right? Here's what we see. Here's what we think can work. And it all goes back to scouting and just looking at trusting your eyes, your judgment, having a collaborative effort in your front office. Man, I have, and Caruso, the Lakers quit on Caruso. They quit on him. They said, no. Old-fashioned scouting said, here's how Billy Donovan, I'm sure, is involved. Obviously, your head coach is involved in the process. But here's how the pieces we think can fit. And it doesn't always work. But the thing I asked, I ran into Mark and Arturas out in Chicago. We were out having dinner a couple weeks ago. I ran into those guys. And I just said, hey, kudos to you for figuring out that the marriage could work. The marriage could work. That their 2 skill sets and their demeanor and their willingness to cooperate and be coached, you have to assess all that. And it's hard. It's hard. I have such appreciation for scouts. I had Jack Ramsey. I was at dinner with Dr. Jack Ramsey one night. He said, I got to tell you the story about the time I traded Wilt.
Oh, man.
What?
Like one, who can say that sentence, and 2, who can own up to it? Like 50 years later, right? 60 years later, he's telling me the story. I was captivated. But I love scouts, man. I like sitting around and guys who, they will tell you what they've done right, and they will be accountable and tell you about the time they missed.
Yeah.
And times they've missed and the times they hit. And so I'm hoping, I didn't mean to go far afield, but, it's pertinent to what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. Like somebody better draft 2 linemen you knew could be great, but you better hit on 2 or 3 that people didn't think could be great and they are great. That's what they need for Justin Fields and that team. And then with the Bulls, it seems like they've done that for 5 pieces. A guy like Derrick Jones Jr., how do you see him fitting? He's not there to score 22 points. But he's there to keep Kevin Durant in part from scoring 28 instead of 38.
Yeah.
What is it that this guy can contribute to you on a Saturday night in Brooklyn or a Sunday afternoon at Soldier Field? What is it? So it is to me, it's not just tied, it's exact. And I love sitting around listening to scouts, man, and them just talking about what they do.
Hey, Mike, it's really great to see that the Chicago and New York rivalry is back in full-fledged in basketball. Our guy Stacey made a bet just before the season tipped off with Nick Friedel, ESPN's Nick Friedel, that if the Bulls finished ahead of the Knicks, Nick would have to buy him dinner. So Stacey's already sharpening his skills on the most expensive restaurant he can find for Nick Friedel to buy him a steak dinner. And then what you guys did with Stephen A. Smith the other night on Countdown was hilarious. The shot of him when they're down 20 and he looks like he doesn't have a friend in the world. I know what he said on the air, but what's he saying off the air about how good this Bulls team is as opposed to his Knicks?
We're texting in every Bulls Knicks game. There's already been 3 of them already. So we got a lot of texts. I will tell Friedel, I bought Friedel many dinners because he was the young pup and I'm the grizzled vet. Tell Nick I'm in that dinner too. Wherever he's bought out, wherever we had that dinner.
Exactly.
So I'll give Stephen A. credit. Stephen A. got it. I give Stephen A. credit. He rolls with his team, right? Yeah. He rolls with the Knicks. And so we're watching a game before that first Knicks game, which, of course, we lost by, a possession. And Stephen A. texted me and he just said, I'm a little worried. Your boys are pretty good. You guys saw the story. You saw what he told Levine. Did you see that?
Yes.
Right before the game, went in front of the table, and he said, Stephen A., what's up? And he said, I know you're rooting against me. And Stephen A. said, I got to root against you tonight. And Zach said, apparently, well, it ain't going to help.
Yeah.
So that was good. Stephen A., even before the game Wednesday night or Thursday night in New York in the Garden, he said, hey, man, y'all are pretty good. And I told him, I don't root against the Knicks because they got 2 of my favorite people in my basketball life. All right. Derrick Rose grew up where I grew up. All right. I played pickup basketball when it was too cold and somebody had sympathy on me and my brother and my boys. Somebody opened the gym to Simeon and let me go in. So that's where I played growing up. I'm never going to root against anybody from Simeon, and particularly not Derrick, who I love to death. And I don't root against Tibbs. I just don't. I mean, I'm not going to root for them when they're playing the Bulls, but I'm not rooting against them. I love those guys. So, Stephen knows I don't get any kick out of it, even though I got to give him a bunch of you-know-what. But he texted me during the game. He's like, dude, they're good. And Shaq and Barkley, Charles was on our show, and Shaq was talking to Charles off camera, but, and they were both telling me I was underselling the Bulls because I said at the beginning of the season, I thought 6th was a spot that I would love to see. I wouldn't get greedy. I wouldn't be ungrateful for 7th. But and so Charles said, hey, they're better than that. And he said on our show, he had them being a top 4 or 5 team. I was like, Chuck. And then Shaq said 3.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Shaq, come on now. I mean, I'm a bigger homer as there is. And I can't see that. And so interestingly enough, it plays with New York, to go back to your original point, because the Knicks are in that group, and we thought Knicks, Atlanta, Philly coming back to the pack, especially they don't know what the hell is going to happen with Ben. I thought if you ask me the most disappointing team so far in the East, I'm going to tell you the Pacers. And I know Rick Carlisle well. I'm old enough to have covered Rick Carlisle as a college player at Virginia. That's how long I've known Rick, when he was playing with the great Ralph Sampson. And that team, and as good a coach as he is, I'm still waiting for the other shoe. Like, I thought when they beat the hell out of us that night and what I call a schedule loss, I thought, okay, they're going to turn it. And they haven't turned it. They can't turn it. And they got most of their people. I know they don't have my man mid-range who used to play on the Suns. Who am I talking about?
TJ Warren.
TJ Warren.
Yeah.
And he's a critical part, like DeMar, of what they do, because it allows all these other dudes to play in space. And I know that Rick loves that. So we'll see about it. I'm not giving up on them.
Stacey likes the Pacers a lot.
Who does? Stacey does? Okay,
yeah.
man. I'm with you. I thought I had the Pacers if they were healthy with Rick Carlisle moving up, not down. So anyway, I was like, oh my God, the Bulls are better, but so are all these other teams. And the Knicks are going to take a step up is what I feared. And they're not taking a step up. And I think part of it is, I love Tibbs, but offensively, the Knicks are not, they're not a top 4 playoff team. They could be defensively, but they don't have those same pieces defensively anymore. Robinson, as Stacey pointed out a lot the other night, is coming on. He's important to what they do defensively. But yeah, the New York-Chicago thing is good for the league. It's good for people who are not basketball nerds like we all are. They're locked in, right? I got people calling me during the Knicks-Bulls games. Even the Knicks-Nets, and the Nets are like the Nets aren't a New York team. I'm not sure what they are. But the Nets are not a New York team. You go in there and people are chanting MVP for who are they chanting MVP for? I'm trying to make sure this TV sound doesn't go up because I don't want that to mess us up. They chant MVP for Steph Curry. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's the Nets. The Nets is a superstar situation. It's kind of like DC, where everybody's from somewhere else. It's not like going to Madison Square Garden. But yeah, man, the Knicks, I was in that first night I was here, Spike was with us, Spike Lee was with us, and Stephen A. They were killing me. Killing me. They don't want to hear from me this tomorrow.
Nah.
After sweeping the New York weekend, I'm going to let them both have it with both guns blazing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I said, last night against, Brooklyn, Kevin Durant can take you only so far. James Harden does not look like James Harden. James Harden, I looked at him for the first time. Now, I've seen him on TV, Mike, and I watched him play. And, but seeing him up close, I don't know if he's healthy. It just doesn't seem he has the lift that he once had. He misses a lot of layups around the basket. I don't know if he's trying to draw contact because he's not getting those calls, but he missed at least 8 to 10 shots around the basket that he would normally complete, be able to get a 3-point play, dunk the basketball. So I don't know what's going on with him, but I was talking to somebody last night and one of their guys, and I'm like, man, Kevin Durant could take you out probably to the second round. Maybe the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe. But y'all not going any further now without Kyrie.
Well, and see, that's what, you saw that. Jalen saw it. So the first night, before we go on the air for our first show, Jalen looked at me and said, because I thought that the Nets could win without Kyrie. I thought they would be the best team in the East. But I'm basing that on the way James played last year.
Yeah.
When he was MVP for about an 8-week stretch before he got hurt. Leading the league in assists with 11 and a half assists a game. I'm like, okay, this dude, they can win. Just the two of them, plus that the man for the kid from Virginia, the shooter, he's hurt now.
Yeah, Joe Harris.
And Blake is done. Blake had a good whatever that was late last year, 3 or 4 weeks. But Blake Griffin is not Blake Griffin anymore. Now we're seeing the guy that was in Detroit.
Yeah.
And I'm not hating. I like Blake Griffin personally and professionally, but he's not there anymore. He's not like these guys got a lot of mileage, Stacey, as you know. And Kevin's got, man, what Kevin's doing, the minutes he's playing in November and December, I'm with you now. Like I've been watching them. I watched Golden State pop them. The Bulls popped them the first time and then beat them. And you know that Kevin Durant was looking for revenge last night. He couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching them in a lot of these games, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen by February? So I'm one of those people who thinks Kyrie will come back. He's a complete egomaniac. And I don't think he sees himself staying out the whole time. I think he sees himself riding to the rescue and being the hero. And if that's the case, he'll come back, whether it's Christmas Day or sometime in January. Because I am just like you, James. I think it's the hamstring more than he'll let on. I think there's disappointment brewing. And I'm not going to sit here and say I got some special insight into those guys. There's some teams with multiple guys I talk to frequently. The Nets is not one of them. I think that something's up with James. Maybe it's the mileage. I mean, James Harden didn't miss games for years.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And he played, and James wasn't exerting himself on defense, God knows, until just recently. But I know there are players, I'm talking about all NBA players right now in the league who have said to me in the last couple of weeks, "Yo, man, what's up? What do you hear about Harden?" Because they perhaps haven't played the Nets yet.
Yeah.
They're like, "What's up with Harden?" And so this is a question people aren't just talking about in media and around the industry. This is a game. This is something people talk about in locker rooms.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but I'm starting to come to your position and Jalen Rose's position. Jalen's position early on was they not winning like this. And you and Jalen Stacey are two of the few people who felt that way from jump.
Yeah.
And good for you guys. Because I don't know where this is going, but it's going to bear a lot of watching over the next few weeks.
Well, Mike, we know that your son Matthew's waiting for you. Probably wants to watch some Sunday Night Football. Little Broncos.
We're going to watch basketball, believe it or not.
Oh, all right, good.
I got a 3 TV setup down here.
All right.
And we had Wizards in Toronto on.
All right.
The Wizards, the Wizards and Bulls are right there together. Now we get a little separation. The Wizards have had a couple of bad losses in the last week. Three in a row,
right,
3 out of 4. And so we do obsess over the Bears. Football over the Bears. We upset. He plays more basketball than anything else. His season starts. He's in middle school in 8th grade. He's a starting point guard. His season starts in a week or two, and I'm like, you better sit down here and watch ball. You better watch
absolutely.
Ball with Steph Curry. And his favorite. Stacey, this makes me so mad. His favorite point guard, really, kinda, is Kyrie.
Oh.
And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna throw you out the house. I mean, you dealing with a guy who's not trustworthy. His own teammates can't trust. I said, how you think Durant and Harden feel? Durant went to Brooklyn because of Kyrie.
Yes. That's what we were talking about last night.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's what we talked about last night. I mean, if you're those guys, you're mad at him because it's like, I came here because of you, and now you're not playing?
Exactly. And so basically, it makes Durant particularly look like he has no judgment. Like, I chose you over Steph Curry?
Yeah.
That makes KD look bad because he went to form a tag team with this dude, and he's not there. So don't get me started on Kyrie. But I am look, the longer he stays out, the longer it helps the Bulls.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not, stay out, Kyrie. Stay your ass at home.
Stay at home. Mike, one more question before we let you go.
Sure, man.
Okay, so you know, what move, if any, do you think the Bulls need to make to be because I believe they're one big away. Like, I would have loved to have been able to keep Daniel Tice. I would have loved to have been able to keep Tice and have him come off the bench as your backup 4 and 5. But we lost him because of money issues. And I thought that was a huge loss, more than Lowry Marketing going to Cleveland. Because Lowry,
we know you can't depend on him to play more than 3 games.
Exactly. And he's a 7-footer that wants to play small forward but can't guard anybody out there. So
so this is so funny that you been talking about this move. So I've been on a text chain with plenty of people As a matter of fact, I'm surprised. I said, wait, is Stacey on this text chain? But so I've been obsessing with this over the last 3 days. That's when I start calling a couple scouts, saying, hey, I'm not talking about this on my show. I just want to know. Show me what's up. So, okay, Stacey. So here's the team a lot of us have targeted, and I bet you have too. At some point, the Sacramento Kings are going to have to be sellers.
Yes.
Okay? Because they might have gotten off to a good start. They had a good win over the Lakers, whatever. They still going to be bottom 3 in the West. So you got to sell. Whether it's for a young player you think can help you all court. You can't keep 3 guys in a log jam. So I'm looking at the kid from Duke.
Bagley.
At Bagley, who I always wanted to draft instead of
Carter.
He's in Orlando now, but he's having a better time. And marketing just used to make me upset because a guy who averages 18 and 9 in his second year, who can stretch the floor like that, that's ideally marketing skill set is ideally what we need.
Yes,
but he didn't want to do what's necessary, so get out. They gave him plenty of time. I want Bagley, and if we can't, if the price for Bagley is going to go up, simply because look how many undersized teams there are.
Yes,
I mean, I look at Golden State. I look at even the Suns. The Suns could use one more guy. Yeah, JaVale McGee helps them from that position, but they need somebody at a true 4 who can give you backup minutes and give small ball, right?
Yes.
But if the price for Bagley's too high, what, they gonna keep Tristan Thompson? They're going to keep Bagley and Tristan Thompson and my man who starts for them who missed, oh, goodness, I can't think of his name.
The kid from Lockport, Rashawn Holmes?
Rashawn Holmes. You can't keep all of them.
Right.
So the price is gonna go up. I can't see them, but the Bulls are not gonna be the only suitors. And I'm looking at, okay, like people trying to convince, I had somebody trying to convince me last night that Christian Wood is gonna be available. And Christian Wood doesn't make anything yet.
Yeah.
In terms of money. But to me, Christian Wood's too good to make available. What if you're Houston, if you're gonna rebuild, how do you not keep Christian Wood if you rebuild it? Who do you rebuild around?
Exactly.
If you're gonna keep Christian Wood. I understand you got the Turkish kid, fine. Christian Wood can get you not just 20 and 10. Christian Wood can get you 28 and 14 on given nights against given opponents. So is he really available? And what are they looking for in return? I don't want to lose Kobe White because we saw in that game, what was the game in United City where he hit the threes?
New York. It was against New York at home, the Knicks.
I was at that game. What am I saying? I'm sitting there. So if you get an injury, I don't want to acknowledge that. But if even just for a couple of weeks, you were going to lose, one of the two all-stars on the team right now and all league players, right? In DeMar and Zach, then Kobe can give you such a high percentage, not in the same way, not with the same dynamic performances, but Kobe, hell, we know Kobe could give you 25, more likely in a substitute role for an extended period, give you 16, 18 points a game in his third year. So I don't want to give him up. But they're going to ask for something important in return. And I keep looking at the bad teams, okay, who, once they fall out of contention, it's so funny. Charles always says, Barkley always says, hey, boy, you better look at so-and-so because they don't know they suck yet. At the beginning of the year, you encourage because you don't know you suck yet.
Exactly.
And he's like, by February, they know they suck. And these guys, a guy here, a guy there will become available. Who's going to become available? So what teams are going to say, we're done? Is Denver going to do that because they got so many guys out for a long period of time? Michael Porter Jr., Jamal, is Murray still? I mean, we don't know how long those guys are going to be out. If they come back by the break, they're not sellers. If they're out for the season, those guys might be saying, hey, the Bulls got somebody we can want over here. So I know it's a long-winded answer. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, I'm obsessed with, there's some buyout guys. There's going to be some buyout guys.
Yeah, there always are.
And so the buyout guys, how much buyout? We're talking
Jeff Green.
What's that?
Jeff Green might be available.
I've heard Derek Favors.
I've heard Favors. I love Jeff Green.
Yeah, he'd be good on this team.
It's hard to see them. They're going, well, again, you're right. If they've given up on the season, that's a whole different story. So I'm looking at those guys. What about Tristan Thompson? Like, how much does Tristan still make at this point? I don't know. But what's the buyout going to be by March, February, whatever? Into January, beginning of February. So I think that we have to have some size, particularly defensively, and the place to where, the former Duke kid in Sacramento gives you more. He averaged 14 and 7, and they're not even playing him. I know y'all watching his minutes. You see his minutes?
Oh,
lately?
definitely. Yeah, his minutes are down.
Well, it's like, damn, if y'all don't want him, then let's figure something out right now.
But it's amazing though, Mike. Mike, it's amazing that you draft a kid this high, and his whole draft class is playing extremely well, and you've given up on him even after your second year. Like what has he done? Maybe he's doing something behind the scenes. Maybe we don't know. But for not to play your second pick in your team that's losing.
Yeah, after you didn't take Doncic.
And you didn't take Doncic because of Vlade Divac's personal thing with his father. That's going to go down. You didn't take Trae Young. I mean, there's a lot of guys they could have took.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so they were not happy because he averaged 14 and 7. We wouldn't take him right now off that. His production level, and again, I'm talking about exclusively coming off the bench. Almost exclusive. I like the lineup now. I like Jones Jr. I like Devontae. I like those guys because they're so defensive minded that, and they're not high maintenance.
No,
you need to maintain them. They're willing to do,
and they understand their role, Mike. That's the key thing.
And so if Marvin Bagley can do that and come off the bench and give you 12 and 6, that's a guy of impact. And if we didn't have to give up Kobe White, if we didn't have to give up something of great value because we're trying to keep this whole group together and ensure yourself against the long season with COVID concerns and injury concerns and all those things that you have, people probably think I'm trying to scout now or be a spy. Now that I'm not covering anything on a daily basis the way I was, I have a different outlook and a different role in my cheering from the press box now, which I would never do. And I had dinner with Sam Smith the other night at United, and Sam's probably like, who's sitting with me? Who is this dude? I've known for forever. So I'm looking forward to potentially making that addition, guys. And in the meantime, just like what's the deal with Caruso and his hammy? What's up with that?
Yeah, it's probably a lot worse than what they thought. I mean, because he couldn't come back in the game the other day, and we've seen the impact that he makes when he's not on the floor. God. When he didn't play in that Indiana game, had he played in that game, I think the outcome is totally different because his energy level and the way he plays the game, it makes everybody feed off of him. Like he's like a middle linebacker. Like he doesn't want to hear no excuses. Like if I'm playing hard, you all gonna play hard. If I'm diving on the floor and I'm fighting through screens, you all gonna fight through screens. And he's like having a coach on the floor. And
I didn't realize that. I knew it was a great value to the Lakers. But what I didn't realize, with the night he played 34 minutes and had no points and like 6 assists, 6 steals, I'm like, okay, the value of that, of a guy who doesn't need attention, he doesn't need the ball. I know how coaches value that. And if you're a star like Zach or DeMar or Vooch, you got to value that. I mean, you just got this guy, like you said, the energy plays and taking charges and ball off deflections and out of bounds plays. And so I'm pointing at him, to my son. I said, hey, dude, you see how much value Caruso has in this game? He got no points. None, no point, nothing. Probably taking 4 shots. I don't care. And so I'm good health, but that's why you got to have some depth. That's why you can't just say, well, you got to give this guy up to get what you want over here, because then that strength that the Bulls have and flying around defensively with Caruso setting the tone, and clearly Derrick Jones Jr. There's some plays he's made. His athleticism coming out of nowhere to try to block shots, and he went over somebody. He went over Kevin Durant last night, and I know he missed the dunk. I didn't care. That was worth something. That had value.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Who the hell is up over me like that?
Yeah, he is a tremendous athlete. He's a shot blocker.
Former slam dunk champ.
I mean, when you watch him play, he covers a lot of ground. And the one thing I'll say about this team defensively, like last year, they were a bad team. They were bad. They had a lot of guys who shouldn't be on NBA rosters. Let's just be real. But Billy Donovan had them in the top 12 as far as defensive efficiency. Right. Okay, now he's got the athletes. Now he's got actual NBA players. They're a top 3, top 4 defensive team in the NBA as far as efficiency is concerned. They don't give up wide open threes. You don't see any team getting wide open threes. They contest every shot.
The they had against Brooklyn last night was a testament to what they're doing.
Yes.
They didn't give up a shot.
They have bought in 100% to what Billy is doing. And when you have guys, I've always said this, like on my championship teams that I played on, everybody on that team had a high basketball IQ. And everybody on this team has a high basketball IQ. You can tell it on the court. A couple games ago, we were playing the Knicks. And Caruso, they ran a zone on us. And Caruso flashed to the middle of the zone, turned, and went and shot the ball. And he missed Derrick Jones on the baseline cut for a dunk. So there was a timeout, and you see him on the sideline telling Derrick Jones, like, hey, I missed you. I saw you at the last second, but if they run that zone again, I'm going to throw it up, you're going to get the lob. Very next play after a timeout, did the same thing, flashed to the middle, and threw Derrick Jones the lob. And that just goes to show you that, these guys can see things and be able to tell their teammates where to be on the floor. And a lot of things like Zoe, having him and Caruso on the floor, Mike, I liken it to having 2 shutdown corners. Like they are the best defensive. They're taking your best players out the game. It doesn't matter if it's the point guard, small forward. We put Zoe on Julius Randle sometimes.
I noticed that. And he's strong enough, he's strong enough that, we made Julius Randle work his butt off in these last 2 games. After the first game, he kind of had his way. But it's so good to hear. It's so good to watch. Tomorrow I'll be right here at this desk watching, the Nuggets game, and it helps me get over my anger with the Bears.
Yeah,
like I'm on. Like I sound like Bill Belichick. Right, on to Denver. I'm on to something else. I'm not going to sit here tonight and, make myself crazy over what the Bears didn't do. I'm looking forward to Monday night, tomorrow night, and the Nuggets. So it's just a cool thing to have. And I would have been in a bad mood tonight. But I'm like, nope, I still got the Nets. I got Stephen A to get into tomorrow. I'm gonna get on Stephen A all day. I'm gonna start texting him while he's on first take.
So
saying,
Mike,
who's here? We here, Stephen A. We all over New York City.
Tell him, hey, Mike, tell him we're the kings of New York.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Tell him Stacey King said we're the king of New York.
I'm gonna do that. Before I roll, I was talking about. I was trying to teach my son about durability and availability. He's like, Dad, why are you always on so and so? I said it was Lori Marketing. And I said, Manny, Lori Marketing has skills, but he's not there. He's not there. I said, do you understand how important it is to a championship team or a championship caliber team? And I said, Manny, I'm not gonna have to look this up, but if I have to look it up, I know I'm gonna be really close. I said, do you know how good the reserve guys, the role players were, the young players were on the Bulls team? I said, you know how many games Stacey King probably played in a row? I said, I'm gonna say he played 82, 82, 82. His first 3 years. I said, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say B.J. Armstrong played 82, 82, 82. Yep. I said, I'm going to say that. I ain't looking it up yet, but I'm going to say that's what happened.
Yep.
I'm close, right, Stace?
You are close. We didn't miss a lot of games. As a team, right. We didn't. We had the fewest games missed.
And see that? Steve Kerr, the only time Steve played 82 games in his career, I did look this up, were his 4 years with the Bulls. He never played 82 before. In a season, I think this is right. He never played 82 after. And so that you guys, just the desire to play a single game in December or January or March when you could check out, the desire to do that is important. And so I can tell that Caruso has that want to. I hope his body will let him. And, Zach playing through that thumb, and it's going to get better, hopefully, knock on wood. Just having that, it's a big deal. It helps stamp an identity on this team. And as you know better than I'll ever know in that locker room. Yeah. In terms of guys wanting to be out there and y'all looking at each other and saying, no, we take the ice pack off, we getting out there.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, man. And I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you every game. So, my wife mistakenly taped, she DVR'd something, I wasn't home. And she, on DirecTV, you get both teams broadcast.
Yeah.
I said, I'm sorry. I know all the people on all the broadcasts. I need to get the Bulls broadcast. I need to get the Bulls broadcast. I got to hit drive home safely, Chicago. And I got to see if I can catch the post game. I got to see Kendall and Will.
Yeah.
So it's a good time, man. You should know that old heads, old people who can remember the end of the 80s and the 90s, we're pretty fired up right now, and we're happy to hear you guys. So keep it coming, man. Keep it coming.
I appreciate that, Mike. It means a lot.
Hey, Mike, we want to congratulate you and Tony on 20 years of PTI. Really loved the anniversary show. There was so much behind-the-scenes stuff. It was a lot of fun. That's must-see viewing for me. I make sure I try to catch it every day. You guys have done.
That's what that means.
I love Tony at the start. He goes, I didn't think we'd last 2 weeks. You weren't that pessimistic, were you?
He was ready to take the guaranteed money and play golf every day. And I'm like, dude, really? 3 weeks? That's all you giving us? We're going to be around longer than that. 20 years.
It went by fast. It doesn't even seem like 20 years.
I know, Stacey, it doesn't. And we're grateful. And I'm grateful to still be in the NBA part of it, which is an additional thing. But, I wasn't about to say no all these years. And so we've come back around to some of my favorite team and the team of my youth and my old age now. And I wish you guys can't see it. I have a picture of in the in the stadium, I have a picture up here of the guys at starting tip. And as it turns out, it was Michael's last game in the stadium.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
Somebody gave that to me, and it wasn't of great value at the time. Obviously, it became of great value. And I'm not a big memorabilia guy, but I got some old-fashioned bull stuff in here, and I've begged Bob Love and Chet Walker if they want to let me have some more, they can. You know, and I missed the conversations with Norm and Jerry Sloan.
Right.
I missed that because I idolized those guys. I idolized them. I went to the stadium and sat up in the back, in the top, wanting to be them when I grew up. And so I got to know them and talk to them and listen to them. So this is really, you know, it's a really cool time for people who are seeing it come back around. So, you know, keep it going. Keep it going. Keep my winner from concentrating on the Bears.
I feel you, brother. We're going to try. We got a good team down here.
I know. I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on.
Hey, you know, speaking of PTI, back in the early days, Tony Reale, who's now a big star of his own right with his own show, was your stat boy. So our tradition is for every guest, the best way to bring an interview to a screeching halt is to let Timmy Whispers ask a question. So Whispers, here's your chance. What do you got for Michael Wilbon?
It could be two questions.
Well, see what you can do.
One is, where would you put Roquan on the list of great linebackers? And two, it looks like you have a Northwestern picture there behind you. Is that Dyke Stadium? It's hard to tell in the reflection. And do you think we're going to lose Fitz?
Oh, yeah. I guess it's the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
It's a Rose Bowl picture from I was at that game in January 1996. And there's a couple of Wrigley Field pictures. One where I threw out a first pitch in 2008, and one from like 1938 or something crazy. So I got a lot of that stuff. Roquan. Well, Roquan is still after Butkus, Singletary, and Urlacher. He's after those guys, but he's gaining on everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's he going to end up, though?
Play on a winning team. Roquan is great, and he and Khalil Mack, the combination of them is incredible, and I just hope those two can be out there on the field together come next season. But Roquan, he's after those guys. Them guys, I'm too young. People would kill me for putting him ahead of Doug Buffon. I was a little kid when Buffon, 55, was on that team, and Doug Buffon was on a championship team in 1963. And so there are guys like that, and Bill George, and people that I barely got to see because I was too little. I think Bill George was on the championship team. But he can't go ahead of the guys I named. He can't go ahead of Butkus, Singletary, Urlacher, at least those three. Who am I missing? 60, Chambers, Wally Chambers, Jesus. And they didn't win. They weren't any good then, so people don't remember Wally Chambers.
Singletary.
Wilbur Marshall, Otis Wilson.
Otis, my man. Otis and Wilbur Marshall.
Yes.
And I was just with Otis on Sunday at the Baltimore game. I was with Otis, and Otis comes out to Arizona. We play a little golf together. Yes, 55. Otis was great. Yes. Otis and Wilbur. So that whole linebacking group, right? You could argue that's the greatest linebacking group ever. You could argue that. I'm sure Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks would say, wait, hold on, dude. But Otis, I just had dinner with Otis in Chicago a couple weeks ago. Otis, Wilbur, and Mike, that group, man, to me, they should all be in the Hall of Fame, and not just Mike. But all those guys, and Roquan, he is stepping into their company. Mm-hmm. He's stepping into their company. I hope he does. He makes every damn tackle.
Yeah.
He has to. Michael, thank you so much for being generous with your time. We survived a Whispers question. He didn't embarrass us today. So
and photos behind me. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm too big of a fan of Mike's to do that.
Keep up the great work on Pardon the Interruption, and we love you on Countdown. And thank you so much for this extended visit.
We'll get you at United Center.
You,
thanks for having me. Hey, Stacey, don't forget I'm in that dinner.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, sir. He gonna pay some of that ESPN money. Trust me.
Hey, listen, and I can vouch for who's there.
Yes.
And he made the bet. I'll tell whoever it is doing expense accounts. Like we lit his butt up.
Yes.
Fair,
exactly. Exactly, Mike.
All right, you can call Matthew and tell him to stay on his grind and become that great point guard. All right.
Yeah, he just better not eating all my Tex-Mex upstairs.
That is our great friend Michael Wilbon. Thank you so much for joining us on Gimme the Hot Sauce. And the hot sauce is coming your way in time for Christmas, all right?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, you guys. Hey, I'll see you. I'm gonna come to a couple of games before Christmas week.
All right.
And, so I'll definitely see you guys before too long.
All right, big dog.
Thanks, Michael. Be
Thank
well.
you again.
All right, be safe. Thanks a lot.
We want to tell you about a great local company. Angel Water is Chicagoland's largest water conditioning service for healthy water for a healthy you and a healthy home. Angel will test your water for free with the code KING21. Call 847-382-7800 for a free water test and healthy water plan with the code KING21. That number one more time, 847-382-7800. And you know, Stacey whispers, one of the funniest things of the past week was our guy Kelly from Notre Dame going down to LSU and faking a Southern accent when he was saying, and I brought my family. The guy's from Massachusetts.
Yeah, he's from Massachusetts. Sound like Colonel Sanders. I brought my family. But yeah, he's.
I mean, that guy, he's done a lot of good things at Notre Dame in terms of wins on the football field, but I don't know if you can trust that.
He's not a real Kelly.
No, you know what? Listen, you know what? And that guy, he got the all-time wins thing in Notre Dame.
Yeah. He
didn't win a national championship. He wasn't going to win a national championship in Notre Dame, so he realized, like, hey, after he found out that LSU offered Lincoln Riley like $12 million a season to come, he was like, hey, that sounds like a place I'd like to be. When Lincoln passed on it, he jumped at it.
And he's probably rooting against Notre Dame getting in the Final Four. They looked for a while there after Oklahoma State lost, like Notre Dame probably would have gotten in if Alabama had lost to Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, it really didn't hurt their cause losing to Cincinnati at home. You know, that was a weighted win for Cincinnati and a weighted loss for Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. And Oklahoma may have a new head football coach.
We're struggling right now, America. We're struggling. The Sooners are down.
Well, I heard Dusty Dvorak as I was coming in to do the show tonight, and he was really high on Brent Venables. He was a former
coach. He was a former defensive coordinator. Yeah,
under
Stoops. Under Stoops. He was a big reason why their defense was ranked in the top 5 in the country, you know, for like 5 years in a row. And then, you know, he just got in a situation where he left Oklahoma because Dabo Sweeney offered him more money to be the defensive coordinator for Clemson, and he was the reason why Clemson's defense was so dominant. And then when he was at Oklahoma, the reason why he left because he had to share coaching duties with Stoops' brother, Mike, and he was no longer the defensive coordinator. He was like kind of an assistant. So he was like, I'm out of here, man. This is, you know. And so he's a good coach.
Well, he may not be a big name, but I know a lot of people at Oklahoma are probably scratching their heads about Porter Moser. He's off to a nice start there, and even with a lot of guys that left the program.
Listen, all those guys who, I think 2 of the 3 guys who left the program are coming off the bench playing about 12, 13 minutes a game. And, you know, they look now probably back and going, wow, man, I wish I should have stayed. Yeah. But that's what happens when you make rational decisions. It's like, hey, give a guy a chance. If you look at Porter Moser's track record, he's a guy that takes 2 and 1 and 2 star players and turns them into 4 or 5, you know, star players before they're done in their career. So he runs a great system. They're winning. They just upset Florida, who's I think 13th in the nation. They beat them, and you know they're going to upset a lot more teams.
He's going to do a great job.
He's going to do a great job. If people are patient with him and let him do his thing, Oklahoma will be right back up in the elites.
And Porter Moser is a past guest of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast, so check that out if you want to take a look back at some of the past shows. He was a great guest, and if you get a chance, take a listen to that. And holidays are coming up, parties and different events you're going to be going to. And Stacey, I know that the folks should give a call to Windy City Limousine. Make sure to take care of your transportation needs.
Yes, America. Windy City Limousine provides championship service. Making a reservation is so easy, it's a slam dunk. Let Windy City break the full court pressure of traffic and get you to your destination in style and on time and safely. Contact Windy City at 866-94-WINDY. That is 866-94-WINDY.
And they'll pick up your whole family and take them down to Baton Rouge.
Your whole family. Oh my God,
Brian Kelly, one in a million. He was lampooned from coast to coast.
Oh my God!
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
It's called the Water Boy.
Yeah, exactly. The Water Boy. That's exactly what he sounded like. Oh my God!
We had a ton of fun. It was great catching up with Michael Wilbon. We appreciate him being patient enough to put up with our nonsense, and has had some great opinions about Chicago sports. And honestly, I watch PTI every day. Wonderful show.
He's a trendsetter. That show has really opened up the doors for a lot of these, sports talk shows. I mean, those two guys. I mean, just amazing to listen to. Like, I mean, some of the skits that they do, and they used to put the faces up with the little sticks, and they'd act like they were somebody else.
Yeah, Tony does the fortune teller bit with the hat.
It's a great show to listen to, and they know sports.
Right,
they know their sports.
Well, we really enjoyed talking with him, and Stacey's going back on the road. He's got to hit Cleveland, 4 days in Miami, so that'll be good. Get some sunshine down there.
And lay out at the beach, get a little suntan.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to wear the Speedo, but just all depends on how the weather is, America.
It'll be no vacation in Cleveland, though. We know that.
Hey, listen, I'm looking forward to going to Cleveland. So any Cleveland fans, I don't need anybody attacking me.
See Stacey on the streets. Yeah. He's
don't
happy
attack
to see
me.
it.
I'm happy to be in Cleveland. Because if you run up on me and you try to start something, you'll get a 2-piece and a soda, okay? Because I'm good with these hands. I told y'all. Y'all didn't
there you go.
There you go.
y'all didn't see this, okay? If you didn't see it if you didn't see it a couple episodes, you saw how fast these hands are. Don't run up on me.
Want to thank Rich White for helping out with running the audio board for us
give
today.
Me the gunshot. Give me the gunshot.
Got the guns in there. They're not really labeled that well. He's probably going to have to go through the greatest hits. You know what? I think we can live without. I think we can live without the guns.
I've been shot. Way to go, Rich.
And he's back filming Chuck Swirsky's Dance Theater.
Oh Jesus! Oh Lord.
They're back.
I saw it.
They're shorter now, but they're back.
I saw it the other day. I went on my little thing, that little Pinata Farms. I put Chuck's hand on the body, and I said, "This is how you should be dancing right here, Chuck." And I put it on there, and of course, everybody liked it.
It's all fun though. The Bulls are winning. Hopefully, that continues in the coming week, and we look forward to bringing you more special guests as we head closer to the holidays here on Gimme the Hot Sauce. So, thanks for listening to episode 58, Stacey.
58. 58. Hey man, Wilbur Marshall. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wilbur Marshall. That's number 58. Yeah. Mark, you act like you're surprised.
I'm just waiting for the tagline so we can bring it down.
I'm waiting for the music, Rich. Drive home safely, Chicago. Beep, beep.
There it goes. Can't go upstairs.
Watch out.
Bring me something and kiss myself.
Whispers.
Windy City of Jackson does it again.
He should like it too.
And Whispers will like it too.
He won't like it.
Oh my God. Oh my God.